welcome.
How are you? Oh, thanks. I was gonna come out. Thank you.
Gotta be kind of, not somebody's gonna steal those, festival pass. It will not stay there long.
You got yours, right?
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
Did you find out the names? Did you call your uncle? The name. Did you call your uncle? Your uncle.
Oh, no, I did not.
Oh, okay.
I did not.
I didn't know if you had it.
Somebody from the, they didn't remember either.
Oh.
Sandy, you got yours?
Yeah, you give me that.
See?
I'm gonna see it stir up. I don't know what Yeah, that's what I like.
So they won't let us go. It's blocked. Maybe not.
Hello, Steve.
Ladies and gentlemen, how y'all? Everybody all right?
Yeah. Yeah.
She's sitting there.
Come on, please. People
Yeah, you'll do that after that.
Good enough. Business card. Oh, Jesus. All right.
Okay, before we begin, I just would like to ask everybody to please be professional and be reminded of the things that we have set in place. Wish everybody a very happy Rice Festival and to be safe. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Core.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Invocation. Chief, would you do the honors, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Gracious and almighty Father, we thank you for the gift of the harvest, the gift of the hands that have taken that harvest and placed it as rice in our area. We ask your blessings upon the Rice Festival, that everything will be in order and safe for all attending. We ask your wisdom and knowledge to be upon this administration, this council, as we make decisions for the future of this city. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Jeff Lavelle,
Here.
Brian Ford,
Here.
Clint Prayer,
Here.
Ronald Fogelman,
Here.
Vernon Martin,
Yeah.
Stephen Primo,
Here.
Samuel Reggie,
Here.
Kim Stringfellow,
Here.
Byron Woolridge.
Thank you. Also, I would like to ask everyone, please, if you have a mask, please put it on. If you do not, please leave the chambers. And I would ask you to continue wearing the mask throughout this meeting. If you do not, I will stop the meeting and ask you to put your mask on. And I would just appreciate the cooperation. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, we'll move right into appearances. Miss Emily Stomo with Citizens Against Flight. Update.
Okay, first of all, I want to let the council know and the mayor that we did not get to meet with code enforcement last month. I had COVID the middle of September, and so we weren't unable to meet. But we will meet sometime between now and the next council meeting. We want to verify that everything is properly coded, that the proper numbers are in place, and we plan on doing that in November. But the total numbers that I am presenting today in a whole is correct, but yet again, we're pretty certain some properties might not be coded correctly. I want to commend Tamika on being a tremendous help to us. She's really stepped up and provided a lot of information for us. But we do have questions that we will be bringing to code enforcement. We also are going to ask to meet with you, Mr. Reagan. We'd like to also verify the files that you are holding. We've been working on blighted properties for 5 months now, and we have reduced the number greatly as compared to previous years, so it's working. But we are seeing the pile-up problems, and we've identified other problems that we will discuss and produce accuracy in November. The mayor did contact me this evening with an update on the blight judge, Mr. John Creighton. The mayor said Mr. Creighton and Mr. Reagan and himself spoke today, and Mr. Reagan will be drawing up the necessary documents for Mr. Clayton to perform the job of blight hearing judge within a couple of weeks. So we expect by the November council meeting, Mr. Creighton will be legally seated.
We hope.
Yep. The mayor also informed me that on Monday, he should know who the lawyer will be that will be serving as a blight lawyer. He told me he will inform me of the response. I reminded the mayor that CAB is in a position right now that we're really ready to start working with both lawyers as soon as possible. It appears the properties are piling up, and they're piling up in the legal section. And so, regarding the map, over here, I'll give y'all the update. If you look at the map, we're gonna go from the bottom up, and you'll see the total 530 properties. That is the revised number after we removed all the properties that were coded 1 and 2. There was approximately 50 properties that were removed from that original number. The 1 and 2 properties, we believe they should have been reviewed for possible citations because there was grass and vehicles and obvious violations. So we're gonna go with the color red. In red, there are 428 cases, and this is identified as properties that have not yet been submitted to code enforcement. The color orange, there's 21 cases there that have been opened by code enforcement, but these cases are not gone beyond the point of being opened. Yellow, you'll see 1 case for the month, and that's declared as uninhabitable by code enforcement. Also note, last month there was 2. So keep in mind that's 3 properties in 2 months. But 4 properties are sent every Tuesday to City Hall. So let's say even 20 properties was sent in, even over 2 months, instead of 32. And that would be 3 properties declared uninhabitable by code enforcement in 2 months. And that doesn't seem correct. The color gray, these are properties that are identified as repairable by code enforcement, and we're showing 3 for the month. The color blue is inhabitable by code enforcement, and the file has been closed. October shows 5. This color is questionable to me, as code enforcement shows 12 properties in 2 months as file being closed and inhabitable. Yet we're still in the process of submitting properties rated 5 by CAB. By all means, we're not any type of blight authority, but 5s are usually very clear to anyone's eyes. So from 5s to a closed file is a huge difference. Purple, there's 21 cases that are submitted, and these are the ones that are submitted to the city attorney. In other words, 21 cases have been tied up somewhere in the legal process. This number is somewhat of a mystery to us at this point, how to define tied up in the legal process. It could mean a number of different things, and in 2 months, we're showing 28 properties that are in the legal process. Of course, what we're all really looking for is the color green. And we want to see the color green increase on the map. We want to see the color red decrease. So the color green is identified as properties that are completed. They've been demolished or repaired to code. For the month, we have 51. Last month, we had 48. So there's a total of 99 that are green now from our original 530. So at this point, we really need to take it to the next level and have the blight judge and the blight lawyer by November. There's one more thing that I'd like to speak to you about, and it's litter and grass. I get countless calls for help. I recently reached out to Mr. Spell after a lady tried to contact code enforcement endless times, as did the gentleman that appeared this month at committee. Prior to this lady calling, I would refer all calls to code enforcement. The calls I get alone should result in many citations as well. But as others mentioned, I too felt the responsibility to call the lady back to see if she got a response. I did that this evening, and she said no. I sent out the text to Mr. Spell on the 5th, and he told me he'd go the next day. I don't want to bother Mr. Spell. It's not really his job, I don't think. I think it should go directly to code enforcement, but they're not reaching that department. So I wanted to ask you if I could have a list of your litter and abatement committee by names and phone numbers, so all these phone calls that I'm getting, I can refer to them as well as code enforcement, and see if we can solve that problem at the same time. And that's my request also. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Time, 5 minutes, she's already at 6 minutes.
Yeah, but we can't ask questions.
Go ahead, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Miss Emily, you said they were coded 1 and 2? What is?
Yes.
What does that mean?
When we went out in the city 3 times, we coded them from 1 to 5.
Oh, okay.
And then when we came back, they decided 1 and 2s didn't meet the definition of blight. It was more grass and cars and trash and stuff. So we took those 50 off the list, and we hope code enforcement took those 50 and went and looked and might have got 40 citations out of the 50.
Thank you. Can I
Any other
ask
questions?
One other quick, can I ask one other real
Yes.
quick question? So, and some of the red on, it looks like there are whole blocks on there, is that?
Yes,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
yeah,
Okay, all right, thank you.
thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next, under B, Mrs. Jill Havitz. Oh, I'm sorry, didn't see you. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, you just said that we're hiring, Attorney Crowley, which is a very, very good attorney. I have to give him his due with that. What is the criteria now? If he's not giving out citations, well, I'm trying to figure out how would this work? Okay,
Well, that process, Mr. Barton, that's the process we're going through right now. We talked with Mr. Craig extensively today, and we're trying to figure out this process as to how it's going to work and what he is a hearing officer. It's an administrative process authorized by the administrative code. And that's where we're going to do this, so that we have authority to do this. And he has proper authority to extend orders and issue he doesn't issue citations. He hears the complaint from the code enforcement that will be filed, and then he will hear, it'll be like a trial. It's very similar to a trial process. It will be held here in the courtroom. We're making arrangements with the court now to schedule at least 1 day a month for those hearings to be held. He's agreed to work with me on defining the process, so that we can get this rolling.
Okay, but I still ask the question. How long has Tony been having this book, the citation book?
That's separate from,
Well, no, wait, John, wait, I'm just trying to understand something here. Okay, he's been having the citation book for what, 2 years now? It's been 2 years, close to 2 years? And how many citations, you say how many citations that you know that they've written?
I don't know.
Well, who knows how many citations, because his report never indicates who.
Okay, point of order, please. Ms. Emily Stoma was here for an appearance to give us an update on blight. Thank you, Ms. Stoma, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Next, D, Mrs. Jill Havitz, Crowley Main Street, to request that the city of Crowley co-sponsor the Christmas and Crowley event on Saturday, December 4th, 2021, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. along North Parkson Avenue and historic downtown Crowley. Ms. Claire?
I'm not Jill. Jill couldn't make it, So she sent me, so you get me today. And she just wanted me to come to you guys and tell you about Christmas in Crowley. We do it every year. We did it last year. It was a little bigger than it has historically been. And we're pretty sure it's going to continue to grow. So we just wanted to come to you guys and kind of, let you know it's going to be December 4th. We moved it to a Saturday to better accommodate the families with children and to, move it a little bit up into the day so that it's still daylight for a lot of it for a safety factor. But also that we would like the streets to be shut for it because we had a lot of families with a lot of little bitty kids last year, kind of all over. And that's a safety factor as well, that we want to make sure that there's no kind of hazard or anything with passing cars and what have you, and all of these little young families kind of milling around at Christmas. So that's basically what we've come to ask the city to maybe co-sponsor it with us so that we can ensure that it's a nice, safe, family-friendly event.
Okay, I'll ask a motion from someone, please. Mr. Reggie, seconded by Mr. Crater. Discussion? All in? Okay.
I just want to say thank you, Claire, for doing the historical tour, and you did a great job. I want to know why you didn't wear your outfit. But, thank you. You did
I should
a
just
great
wear it
job.
all over town.
You
Just
should. Yeah. Thank you for that. We really enjoyed it, and hopefully that'll be a yearly thing.
Oh, I'm hoping it'll
Yeah.
be more than yearly.
Yes, great. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Ms. Claire.
Thank y'all very much.
Next, Mr. Reginald Richard to request use of the Enterprise Center parking lot for the jambalaya cook-off to be held on November 13th from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Mr. Reggie?
Yes, I was just coming, we're having it's our annual cook-off. It's a little bit different. We're doing a jambalaya cook-off this year instead of the children. But we're planning on it for November 13th. We're looking to possibly use the parking lot of the Enterprise Center to give us a little more space. Because we're hoping that we're going to get better turnout. I mean, we had a good turnout last year, but we're always trying to get better. So we're looking at possibly using that as our area to host it. So that's what we're here for, just to ask permission for it.
Okay, Mr. Reggie?
Are you gonna need anything besides the parking lot, like some barricades or anything, or just the parking lot?
Mr. Reggie, give me one second, please. Is that all you have to say about what you're doing and what you're planning? I'm gonna ask for a motion, and then we'll.
Yeah, because I know we had talked about our pumpkin event, but with trick-or-treating happening afterwards and the gumbo cook-off before, we thought it was better we just reschedule it to a day that we already have use of the Wells Fargo building. We're just gonna do it that afternoon after our market.
So this November
So it's
13th is still correct?
Yes, November 13th, so
And the time is still correct, 7 a.m. to 12?
yes, I believe so, right? So 2? Okay,
So it starts at what time?
7 till 2.
7 till 2, okay. All right. Need a motion, please?
Also move.
Offered by Mr. Core, seconded by Mr. Primo. Discussion. Mr. Reggie, you had a question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just need to know if you needed the parking lot, or do you need some barricades too, or?
I think we had talked about seeing if we could get used to some barricades just to kind of, keep an area around it to where, because we will be selling bracelets and stuff like that, so.
Will we need a work order for that, or?
Yes, you can contact us at the office, Mr. Reginald.
Okay.
Next week will be fine. Contact us at the office and we'll put in a work order. And
Awesome.
Mrs. Stelling will get that out for you.
Cool, Joe. All right, do I have any time left?
Sir?
Do I have any time left?
Sure.
I got one small thing. I just wanted to recognize our recreation director, Mr. Kirsch. And it's, something was brought to our attention about a park in South Crowley about some juveniles that use it. So we went to talk with them about it. More than willing to help us out. Actually, we was brainstorming and trying to find some out-of-the-box ways to get it fixed without actually having it cost a lot of money. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and he's a good director.
Thank you. Very well, thank you. Thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Any agenda amendments? Next, approval of the minutes of the regular council meeting held on September 8th, 2021.
So moved.
Offered by Mr. Cabell, seconded by Mr. Cord. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next, we'll move to the mayor's report, sales tax chart. Sales tax chart, we are up, at the beginning of September, we're up 11.23% from the previous year. That's a good sign. Next, we'll move to the user fee chart. The user fee chart showing that we are down 15.69% from the previous year of this month. Okay, next is the budget analysis. And that is from the beginning of this year. And if you'll notice, I'll just point this out to you. If you'll notice that the general fund is approximately $2.3 million in difference between expenses and revenue. It's because you all know about the ARPA fund. The ARPA money was put into that account, and that's the difference there. Okay? And then, if you'll look at the expense part of it, on the $17 million part, that is inclusive of our bonds that we're going to be expending. So that's what that difference is. All right. Next, we'll do our standing committee reports, is Public Works, Mr. Craver.
Thank you, Mayor. The Public Works Committee convened Wednesday, October 6, 2021 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers, and a quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was offered by myself and seconded by Alderman Martin to recommend approving partial payment estimate number 15 to Southern Constructors Incorporated for the citywide drainage improvements project in the amount of $183,722.11. And that motion carried, and I so move.
Second.
Okay, offered by Mr. Craver, seconded by Mr. Cavell. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That number is correct, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
The motion was offered by myself and seconded by Alderman Cord to recommend approving change order number 4 to the construction contract with Triton Construction LLC for the city-owned parking lot improvements project to grant 60 calendar days of additional contract time and to include a new pay item in the amount of $18,331 for the installation of 2 conflict boxes in the new subsurface drainage system at the old swimming pool parking lot. Motion carried, and I so move.
Second.
Offered by Mr. Crater, seconded by Mr. Cord. Discussion? Oh, Ms. Trinko.
Thank you, Mayor. This kind of is a question from the last item. Mr. Mayor, are they finished with the drainage project on Avenue D and 14th and 15th?
Basically finished, dress up is left to do.
No further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That number is confirmed, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Motion was offered by myself and seconded by Alderman Cord to recommend approving partial payment estimate number 7 to Triton Construction LLC for the city-owned parking lot improvements project in an amount of $146,460.54. That motion carried, and I so move.
Second.
Offered by Mr. Crater, seconded by Mr. Martin. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? And that number is confirmed as well. Thank you.
Under non-action items, the Public Works Director, Mr. Albert John, presented the monthly Public Works report. The Street Commissioner, Mr. Gilbert Ozing, presented the monthly Street Department report. And City Engineer Tim Mader presented the monthly Engineers report. There was no further business to come before the Public Works Committee in the committee recess.
Thank you, Mr. Crater. Next is utility. Mr. Martin.
Utility Committee convened Wednesday, October 6th, 4 p.m. in council chamber. Quorum was present. On the action item, a motion was offered by myself and seconded by Alderman Cavell to recommend approving the resolution to authorize a procurement process for engineering service for the City of Crowley American Rescue Plan Act, known as ARPA, Trench 1 Grant Project, replacement of the ultraviolet UV disinfectant system. Motion carried, and I so move.
Second.
Offered by Mr. Martin, seconded by Mr. Primo. Discussion. Mr. Crater?
Yes. How much is that for?
I think it's in his report, in his engineer's report, Mr. Mayor.
1.56 million is the estimate.
Thank you.
All right, no further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Motion was offered by myself and seconded by Alderman Cavell to recommend approving a resolution to authorize the procurement process for engineering services for the City of Crowley American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA Trench 1 Grant Project. Okay, replacement of the ammonia nitrogen media mash pond improvements, additional accelerated and whatever that is. Motion carried, and I so move.
Second.
For 2 seconds, okay, Mr. Martin Steb and then Mr. Fogelman. Seconded. Discussion? Oh, yes, sir, Mr. Crater.
Same question.
Right.
How much is this one?
That one's 1.690, understand that's the entire project cost. Your resolution is to procure engineering services, but the estimate I give you is the total project cost, which includes engineering.
And also,
Mr. Crater?
and is this coming from the state's 300 million, or is this coming from the federal government?
It's not the state's water sector, it's the money that came into the city directly. It's in your account already.
Yeah, but that's coming from the state.
It is federal money.
Federal money.
Okay, so we still maybe get some from the state also, from their 300 million, right? No.
We're not intending to apply for it because we don't think we'll qualify in the competitive process.
Okay, and could any of this money, this ARPA money, be spent to maybe buy 2 generators, a 40 horsepower pump, a 20 horsepower pump, a 60 horsepower pump, 75 horsepower pump, and a 5 horsepower pump that we were told we were desperately needing, or just recently? Can we use some of that, this ARPA money for that?
Maybe in tranche 2, but you're not applying it to the tranche 1 money by adopting these resolutions and going forward with these 2 projects.
Okay, so all of this phase 1 money is gonna be going from this.
Phase
These
1
two
will be
projects.
applied to these 2 projects, but you'll have tranche 2, which is the exact same amount of money that we expect to come in about 8 to 10 months.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Stringfellow?
Thank you, Mayor. I think possibly what Alderman Crater was alluding to was we have a grant, right? But these 2 projects aren't in that grant from this, that would be from the state. You know,
If I understand your question correct, the UV system is gonna use capital outlay money in the amount of $810,000 in addition to these monies. So
Right,
there is other
right.
monies coming into these 2
I
projects.
think that's what he meant, yeah. Okay, thank you.
No further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Oh, did you get him seconded? Okay, thank you.
And the non-action item, wastewater superintendent Tim Crater presented the monthly wastewater report. City engineer Tim Mader presented the monthly engineering report, and there will be no further business coming before this utility committee recess.
All right, thank you, Mr. Martin. Next is Recreation Committee, Mr. Primo.
Thank you, Mayor. Recreation Committee met Wednesday, October 6th. Under action items, there were none. Under non-action items, Recreation Director Peter Kirsch presented the monthly Recreation Department report. Tim Mader, City Engineer, provided his monthly engineer's report. Since there was not a quorum present in committee to consider his council action requests regarding the recreational trails project on page 26 of his report, Mr. Mader requested the action item be on the October 13th, 2021 council meeting agenda.
And if you look at your packet on your agenda.
Okay, and on that, it is, to authorize the continuing expenditure of the necessary local funds for the planning, clearing, and staking of the location of the recreational trail or officially abandon the recreational trail project.
And I remind everyone that it did not go to committee. Offer a motion for this.
I would offer a motion to officially abandon the recreational trails project.
Offered by Mr. Primo to abandon, seconded by Mr. Fogelman. Discussion. Ms. Stringfellow? Oh, I'm sorry, somebody else did.
Can we explain to the audience why the reasoning is, I just think they would want to know, would be interested in what we found out from DOTD and why, because we're not just, abandoning it for no reason.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, for the benefit of the audience, I'll go through and kind of synthesize what I put in the report, and I also emailed to you, or Joan emailed to you. Basically, it boils down to a jurisdictional determination made by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that led to an archaeological issue. And what we did is Peter Kirsch, Jessica Richardson with the DOTD Environmental Impacts Office, Stacy Palmer, the state archaeologist, all met on site in mid-September. The two individuals, Ms. Richardson and Ms. Palmer, informed us that there was a brick plant there that's a historical site located in the immediate area of South Avenue C, Mustang Road, and the City of Crowley Cemetery that they believe was there back in the early 1900s, probably a century ago. They believe there was enough concern of there being artifacts in the area, and so they advised us that they had to conduct a survey, and the survey to be conducted had to be conducted exactly where the new trail would be. Well, up to now, all we have is a sketch that was in the application. The exact location of the trail has never been determined. We're waiting to get past the USACE jurisdictional determination to do that. They expressed to us that once we staked it out, we would have to clear it, we would have to remove any soil that had been deposited there to get down to the natural soil, and we have to be very careful that we don't enter into the natural soil, because that's where they believe to find artifacts. They will come to Crowley and they will walk the trail and look for any evidence of artifacts. If they find artifacts, probably we can count on one of two things happening, that they will tell us we have to move the trail, and then we'll have to restake it and decide where the new location is. They'll have to come back and take a look at it. Or they may find, when they're out there, that the project couldn't go forward because they believe in that investigation that the whole site is how you say, under threat or risk of violating archaeological interests. So we estimated that to get to the point of getting an archaeological determination, we may spend another $10,000 to $15,000 to plant it, to stake it, to clear it, to excavate any deposits there, because we're going to need people to do that. All that with the chance that we may spend that much money and wind up having a determination that you can't go forward with the project because of artifacts. The other thing that I wanted to point out, and it's in my report, is that this project was applied for in 2017. It was long before there was any notion or any vision of the tournament situation we have out there now. in dealing with that particular issue, we discussed it with Mr. Reagan. Their concerns that if we get 60, 65, 70 teams, their families out here, and the children that come along with it, that trail could be an attractive nuisance where the young kids would go out and the bayou llama is right there, there could be a risk. So to mitigate that, we would need to add something that wasn't in the original grant application, which is security fencing along the bayou. We also believe there would need to be additional fencing between the trail and the baseball fields to prevent somebody from wandering directly into the trail. All that for security concerns. We've estimated that additional fencing to cost somewhere in the order of $25,000. It's 1,800 feet of fencing. Of course, we haven't figured out how tall and what it would be composed of, but roughly $23,400 in fencing. Already the grant was supposed to fund up to $99,500. The city was supposed to match that with $35,500 originally. Now we're adding maybe $23,000, $24,000, $25,000 for the fencing. And you may spend another $10,000 to $15,000 to get to the point of the archaeological determination. So it appears that what was proposed as grant heavy and local money light is beginning to be on the order of 50%. And so the purpose as expressed in the grant application is beginning to kind of diminish. And I think Peter Kirsch may have some other comments to make about what it means to him. If there were a trail there, what does it mean for him to operate it and maintain it?
I have a comment also. Also want to point out that the trail is within 100 feet of the center line of Bayou Blanc, which is under the maintenance of the 6th Ward Crowley Drainage District. Any improvements built within that 100-foot right-of-way granted to the Drainage Board for maintenance of the channel, if there was obstruction within the channel, those improvements would have to be removed by the city in order for the Drainage Board to do its operations within. So that would be another expense burden by the city if maintenance of the channel was necessary within its right-of-way for maintenance.
So another added cost.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any further discussion? Mr. Reggie?
So I had a meeting with Gordon yesterday, and they had some money that they were supposed to donate or whatever to this project. So I read Mr. Mayor's report. They couldn't speak for all the other clubs that were donating money also, but they said that they would be in favor of also stopping the project now. But if there was with the but of being, if the project could be somewhere else down the line at a different location, they would still want to pledge money and do the projects.
Absolutely, please tell them thank you, we appreciate it. Okay, any further discussion? Oh,
No, I just wanted to also throw in that what the grant doesn't take into account is the perennial cost that comes afterwards of maintenance, staff, and all of those things too. So just wanted to make sure that that was for it.
thank you, Peter. No further discussion? Oh,
Just to say that we're not pressing the issue. It's the Bureau of Outdoor Recreation, the grantor is
Yeah.
pushing us to make a decision. So that's why it came up at this time.
that's why it came up this fast this time. All right, all in favor? Opposed? And I want to remind everyone, this is to abandon. All right, Mr. Primo?
There was no further business to come before the Recreation Committee, and the committee recessed.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Primo. Next, Zoning and Annexation Committee, Mr. Fogelman.
Thank you, Mayor. Zoning and Annexation Committee convened on Wednesday, October the 6th at 4 p.m. in the council chamber. There was was no quorum for the meeting. However, there were no action items, and under non-action items, City Engineer Tim Mader provided the monthly engineer's report, and with there being no further business, the committee then recessed.
Thank you, Mr. Fogelman. Next is Public Safety, Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Mayor. The Public Safety Committee convened Wednesday, October the 6th at 2021 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers, and a quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was offered by the chair and seconded by Alderwoman Kim Stringfellow to approve the following 2022 beer and liquor licenses, which are indicated as 1 through 21 on the committee meeting minutes, and letters A through U on today's agenda, which I would like to introduce in global. And so moved.
Certainly offered by Mr. Cord. Second. Oh, offered by Mr. Cord. Okay, hang on one second. Offered by Mr. Cord, seconded by Ms. Stringfellow. Discussion. I'm sorry, Mr. Cabell, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend that motion based from the standpoint that with information that we received, that all the council knows from police reports, from calls to certain establishments that are listed for renewals, I think we need to take a more specific, in-depth view, knowing that in doing things in global basically means all are equal. In this case, I think it's evident that not all parties asking for renewal are equal. And I say that with evidence received from Chief Broussard's office regarding calls made to certain of these establishments. And what I mean by that is you have some just south of the courthouse that may have within a year's time 2 to 5 calls in a 12-month period, whereas there's other establishments, a couple of them actually, with 24 or more, up to 30 plus calls a year. You have another establishment, it is a convenience store of sorts that has, on average, a call every 54 hours. If we want to really look depth, we talked about wanting to, I've tried to get information. I understand it was kind of late notice. Maybe Chief can chime in on this, as to actually, of all these calls from the sheets that we got, how many citations were actually written to establishments? And because we talk about writing citations with code enforcement and making sure grass is cut, but we got people getting beat, we got public urination, public drunkenness, open container, people being shot. And I don't want to belittle what code enforcement is supposed to do, but at the same time, I think we can't overlook in a whole global sense, compare one establishment to all these others.
To answer that question, to my knowledge,
I'm sorry, Chief.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, hold on one second. You offering an amended motion?
But I wanted, yes, I'd like to end the motion that we extrapolate number 9 from the list and vote on it separately. And that's the one that was, per what was given to me, 156 calls within 1 year. That's one call every 54 hours. Chief, you have limited resources. This is not something I think would help. If nothing else, somebody's clean up an act. But we go with your recommendation. Your recommendation has weight. It carries weight. And we refer to that. We rely on it. And I don't want to have happen today what happened last year, whereas you sign off on something, we take your recommendation, but then all of a sudden the brakes are put on, a halt is made, says, well, we're not sure about this one. I want to go and leave here today with my vote, knowing that it's a good vote, knowing I've accepted your recommendation.
You accept, you recommended this one establishment. And I'm asking for there to be some sort of rescinding. I asked for from you a quantification of how you come about, approving these applications. I understand you're under time constraints with Rice Festival as well. But with the information that Captain Millett gave us, I think it was very easy to look upon ourselves as to what decision should be made.
Well,
I apologize, Chief. Mr. Cavell, you offered an amended motion, and I'm looking for a second, please. Amended motion offered by Mr. Cavell, seconded by Mr. Reggie. Discussion. Ms. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Mayor. Are these liquor licenses for the entire year of 2022? Okay, so, okay, they're just getting their license early, I guess. 'Cause- Right, it's, okay, it's a renewal, and they're before January, or before,
Yes,
got it, okay. But it's for the entire year of 2022.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That is correct. Mr. Martin?
I'm trying to figure out, Jeff, what exactly are you asking? You use the word discrepancy and all this other stuff. The chief signed off on these licenses. We have to trust that, being the chief law enforcement system for the city, that he pretty much knows what he's doing. Okay? I mean, if there was a problem that you wanted to initiate as far as giving a liquor license, it should have been brought up a lot sooner than this. Okay, because you're going into we have one more meeting. And if I'm not mistaken, don't the liquor license expire at 12 midnight, January 1, or December 31st?
Yes.
Okay. Now, am I not correct in saying that this place, this is a store? Okay? There's a big difference between a store and a bar. That means anyone and everyone that's coming into town, chances are the bar's open at whatever time they open, whatever. But you get different quota of people coming into a store that you wouldn't have in a bar. So I feel comfortable, I'm just speaking on behalf of myself here, that if the chief, I'm pretty sure if there was a problem that he couldn't handle, I'm pretty sure he would have not signed off on it. That's just my respect for him and law enforcement. So I'm just trying to ask the question here, what exactly do you want to happen? You say you want to amend the motion to what? Well, I'm gonna let you tell me, what exactly, if there's an amended motion, it has been a second, what exactly are you asking this body to do? With that singling of this, what is it, Fat Boys Incorporated? Okay, what exactly are you asking the body to do?
Yeah. Yes, yes, Mr. Martin. To answer your question, back to both questions, extrapolate means take out from the global, okay? So to vote on that one separately, okay? Because in my opinion, that one is not equal, which global means all taken in together, to be when you have an establishment, whether it be a bar, restaurant, or convenience store, when a police officer is called on average every 54 hours to this location, there's problems. And not to belittle the chief by any means, but at the same token, last year, we had a situation whereby there was establishment on south of the courthouse on Parkinson, where he signed off on it as well, but then all of a sudden, when we came to vote, Chief, along with Alderman Core, said, well, let's do the same thing and maybe make this one a contingency license. And there's no such animals act, okay? So knowing there's not that situation, I think I'm not gonna compare somebody who has a pristine grade or record with someone, place like this. I don't think it's fair to do that, so I wanted to take it out, and whether the vote passes or not, that's our vote. But I don't think we need to equate the two, and we vote on that one separately.
Mr. Crater?
Is that the only one you want to extrapolate out, or is there others that you'd like to take out? Because I saw the report that you were given also, and there was some problem child in other areas too, Jeff. So I'm just wondering, it's up to you, because we can vote on it separately, every one of them.
If you're asking if I struggled with some others, yes, I did. And I'm hoping that just through this discussion, there's the word that it starts with talk. And you know, just as we started with talk with grass and blight, I think we need to do the same with what we're seeing at establishments that aren't able to control what they're in business to do. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Core?
Regarding the liquor license, I guess the question, and Mr. Reagan, you may be the one to answer this. Have any of these citations been against the liquor licensee for him violating the provisions of his license? I mean, as far as the information we received, I didn't see this individual's name being mentioned as, for instance, being cited for serving alcohol to a minor or of that nature. And I just want to make sure that if we get, I guess we'll get to the point of recommending.
I don't have that information.
Right, I think you need that.
The information I have is that there were, just what you saw, the calls, but the numbers of calls and the frequency of the calls and the classification of the calls. So I don't know particularly what the calls were related to exactly, but that's something the council can discuss if this motion passes, because
Yes.
I think it was well stated by Jeff as to why he was doing that.
Sure, we'll discuss that when we get to that application. The motion passes.
No further discussion on the amendment?
Yeah, just clarify what we're voting on.
Yes. Of course, right now we're voting on the amended motion,
Which is,
which is
to
what
take
Ms.
that one out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be simply stated to remove number 9, Fat Boys, from the global list.
On the global list, that's correct. Okay? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right, now we can revert back to the to the original motion of being global. Excluding, that is correct.
And I so move.
Okay, offered by Mr. Core.
Yes.
Seconded by Mr. Prater. Discussion. All right.
Okay, well, what is the caveat here? You're taking it out and then what? Are we gonna vote separately on that? Is that what you, okay, that's what I was asking the first time. So you want this to be voted on separate? Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir. And that's what we're doing at the moment. All right, all in favor? Oh, I said discussion, and he asked a question. Any further discussion? Mr. Prater?
Chief, do you have any others that you would like to be taken out and voted on separately, or are you okay with everything else?
Well, I will say, I mean, for most purposes, we normally do that with regards to particularly Fat Boys. I do want to say that I visited with them, and this was last year after we had talked about it. And I told them, I said, unless you clean up the act. Now, I mean, I understand, you know, the number of calls there, but most of the citations written were to individuals, not to the business. ATC also visited Fat Boys and had a discussion with them as well. And as I mentioned, not in a cavalier attitude, but that they have stepped up to the plate, where they are calling to have the parking lot cleared, you know, no people loitering, nothing like that. They're picking up their littering. Now, with regards to littering, as we talked about, just to mention that, I know we're talking about a specific area where there are like 2 or 3 establishments. We have received a letter from the parking lot owners that said they don't mind someone parking there, but they're not allowed to loiter there. So officers have been instructed to cite anyone loitering in that parking lot. They can park and go to the establishments, but they're not to loiter, they're not to have their own quote-unquote party anymore. But, I mean, it's this council's choice because you did receive the records.
Mr. Cavell?
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief, and I do appreciate the cooperation in getting that information. And I'd be glad to work with you and somehow formulate a quantitative system of grading that for not only that application, just so it's a signature, it actually comes with a signature and a potential grade that not only this council, but future councils can see where establishments grade from year to year, whereas you also want to commend those that made 1 year grade of D and now are C. So, like you said, that one may, that way, one is, you show an improvement, like you just said. The way the system is now, we would never have that information, just like Mr. Martin referred to. You've already signed off on it, unless I asked, we would never have known about these sort of situations.
And I'm more than willing, Alderman, perfectly willing to do like a grading system.
Thank you. All right, no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Okay. Mr. Gordon?
So next we'll move on to item, number 9 for the, 2022 Class B package beer permit and 2022 Class B package liquor permit, for Fat Boy Incorporated, and I so move.
Second.
Offered by Mr. Gordon, seconded by Ms. Stringfellow. Discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Some of the questions I have, and it pertains to the, I know we're trying to accomplish here, there is a lot of calls at this location, a lot of activity that's undesirable, it's a nuisance, I mentioned that last year. I just want to make sure that, if we don't approve this liquor permit, is that the right action to take? Or should it be something to the effect of removing that occupational license? Because if the property owner, or the licensee, if you will, has not received any citations from the city for improper operation under his liquor permit requirements, and the city has not suspended his license for prior violations, is this, and he has occupational license that has not been suspended, is the action of the council to prohibit these undesirable activities from occurring in the future remedied by not issuing a liquor permit? And Mr. Reagan, I guess it's a question for the guy, because I can see that this operator coming back to the city and saying, what have I done individually to violate my license?
The question would be a fact question, number one, but the other issue is about particularly about the litter and the littering that's continuing out there apparently. I've seen it myself, and it's mostly, what I see is cases of beer, bags, cans in a big bag, glass bottles in a big bag. That there's open container violations out there. It's obvious. There's a lot of this that's related to the liquor license. Although the owner has not received a citation, under the liquor license law, a place becomes a nuisance for the sort of activity that you're seeing, and it has been demonstrated over the past several years. And it appears to me that it's continuing, that these people are still loitering out there, that you're constantly calling the police personnel to this. The owner is allowing people, to generally, if he runs them off right away, it doesn't happen. And everywhere else, I don't know why I can't answer why he doesn't do that, but you don't see these problems at other locations that are located in this area, you know, and as I said, it's a fact question here, and it's related, it doesn't have to be a citation. You control liquor licenses. That is a much easier task than controlling somebody's business. To shut down their business operation is a completely different and much more difficult thing, whereas denying someone a liquor license because of the conditions that are prevalent around his area, where his establishment is located, is based on that particular location's inability to govern the people that are, but nobody's supposed to be walking out of there with an open container. You know, and I don't know if you've been out there, I've driven by, and they're walking out there, you know, walking out the door, drinking the beer.
And they're walking across the street.
Walking across.
And the same thing on the abandoned building there. I've witnessed that as well.
So, I mean, if you want, the opinion is that the liquor license is something you have much more authority about regulating versus an occupational license, which is a very difficult thing and relates to somebody's ability to earn a living. The fact that he can't sell beer or liquor, he's got both permits, is not gonna stop the business of the store from existing.
Yes.
The interest in the public is, you know, to avoid that, that is well within your responsibility and your authority to deny a license. Once you give him a license, it's much more difficult to take it away. This is an appropriate time to consider that, whether or not you want to, that would be a means of regulating this establishment. There's nothing to say that he can't come back and make a new application later on in 2022 if the chief can determine that he's got a better plan of compliance. But obviously, the plan of compliance is somewhat better, but 54 hours apart, that's devoting far too much police personnel and time to one location.
Thank you. That's exactly the clarification I was seeking. I appreciate that, Tom.
Thank you. Mr. Reggie?
Question for Tom, since we're talking about nuisances, do you have a definition of a nuisance?
Well, it's kind of like Judge Potter Stewart said about pornography. I know it when I see it.
Okay.
Nuisances cover a broad range of things. A nuisance is the definition of a nuisance is something that interferes with the good management and the care of your property that interferes with other people. In this case, you're interfering with the operations of the police department. There's complaints from the residents of the area and the business owners about parking on their properties, which that appears to have been solved. But you still got the litter, you still got the open container out there. You still had the shootings. I mean, it's still a far cry from the other establishments that are listed here, as I see. There are many locations here that have the same Class B permit that you're not getting any violations hardly.
Okay. Ms. Stringfellow, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just have two quick questions. So we have 21 total on the list. Are we to assume that we only have 21 establishments in the city of Crowley that sell beer and liquor? Okay, so that would be no. And then, so this particular property, number 9, he can come next month and request the license. So he could come every month and request. If he
can come and make an application.
Make an application.
He can come and put in his application, and the chief would still have to renew it.
Okay, all right.
Right.
Oh, okay, okay. And he pays the application fee and everything? Okay. How does that work? I just want to know all the...
Yes, he's going through the application process.
Okay,
These names that you see have gone through the application.
Right, and they pay a fee and all that, okay, all right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Martin?
Okay, I'm listening to both sides, all three sides, however many sides you wanna put it. First of all, we are a legislative body. We only have one judicial, shall we say, body in here, and that's the chief. The only time we take action is when the chief asks us to take action. The only time the administration takes action, when this legislative body comes to a decision whether or not to give pertinent action, whether to or against, whatever. We taking away the power of our judicial chief. Had he not, and I would say this, I have enough confidence in him to make this statement. I think if Chief would have been having a problem with this where he could not control it, I'm pretty sure the first thing that their name wouldn't have been on this list. Now, we overstepping our jurisdiction by, and first of all, every council member have a right to ask questions or whatever. Jeff, I read your emails to him and the back and forth. Both sides have legitimate pros and cons. But the fact of the matter is, we got to give our police department a chance to take hold of a situation that we feel, and the citizens might feel, is out of play. And I reiterate to the point of what I said earlier. This is a store. This is not a bar. Okay? People stopping from going on highway, it's on Highway 90, so I'm pretty sure that people going in and buying, you know the old saying, well, you know what, I bought it from the store, so I'm gonna leave the damn trash on the parking lot. Okay, because I bought it from them. I mean, hell, I hate to say it, but I use that analogy sometimes myself, so it is common. But before we go taking this and that off and talking about this and that, I think we have to give the chief respect that if he feels that this needs to come off, let him access. Let's not put, because right now I feel that we're giving him an undue burden right now because we're taking away his power of suggestion. I'm listening to what you're saying, Chief, and I'm understanding one thing. Yes, they're having problems with litter. Okay, well, there's a litter law with them, okay? But apparently, and I say it again, we have a code enforcement. To me, code enforcement is taking care of litter. Am I right? Isn't that part of it? Well, I'm asking, I don't know. Okay, well, if it's the chief, write up litter. But I mean, right now, we at the 11th hour right now of deciding what this guy, whoever he is, gonna have a liquor license for the next year. Okay? And I don't think it's right for us to take away the power of the chief to make that determination whether or not he should have a license. I think through a due process, yes, they have, I was surprised, 100 and whatever calls it might have been. But at the end of the day, you know, we have to start somewhere. So before we drop the hammer on I'm just talking to me, as one voter on this council. I think it's more pertinent that we allow the chief to do his due diligence instead of having lawyers there suing this council because we haven't given them, the owner of this business, the protocol, okay? The right to come in front of this council and ask the question. I know we have one more meeting, but let's face it, if we can't get the information that we want, it'll be the same thing. So we actually are taking away this guy's meaning of making money or whatever it may be, but at the end of the day, he has no right, along with any other citizens, to break the law. And everything I'm hearing right now is nothing going on against the business, okay, against the person. Everything is with basically the parking lot. And I mean, that's what I'm hearing. Okay, I don't know how many fights they had, I don't know how many shootings they had, but I'm pretty sure we do a one count to one count. I'm pretty sure that the litter and everything else outweigh fights over that. So I think we need to just chill down. And as always, if it's not in compliance, I'm pretty sure the chief will come and say, you know what? And once again, Councilman Reggie, you asked what the nuisance is. There's 5 different definitions of a nuisance. For everything that you bring up, whether it's grass to public urination, whatever it may be, okay? There's many different aspects to it, but the Attorney General, once again, can give you the one pertinent to this. So I would think before we, do something drastic here, that allow the chief to talk to this gentleman and tell him, look, you got the microscope. And we got a right to go, and someone mentioned the fact of going to take his occupational license off the wall. We do have that power, okay? So let's wait till he call on us to administer our power. Because right now, to be honest with you, if my vote would be there, I wouldn't know what to vote on, because I don't understand what the problem is. Okay, we understand about the litter, but if there's no fights or whatever going on every 50 hours or whatever it may be, leave it up to the chief. That's just my analysis. Thank you.
Chief,
Wait, I apologize, I think he had his hand up first, I'm not sure, it looked like it. Mr. Cavell?
and, of the 156 calls last year, there was not any of them. So litter's not even in, I didn't even count the litter, is how serious I'm thinking of this.
How many
Okay?
fights?
Simple robbery, disturbance, criminal trespass, disturbance, theft, disturbance, aggravated assault, criminal trespassing 4 times, theft, fights, suspicious person, theft, fight, auto theft, accident involving, and winding up, disturbance. That's just page 1.
Well, I do understand,
But
and
what
I
I'm
take
saying-
heed to what you're saying, but I mean, at the end of the
You
day,
said you read the email, and it was part of the email, so I figured you came in and understood what I was getting at.
I read the email, but what I'm trying to say is, why wait till the 11th hour to bring this up? If this has been happening 150 times during the year, I mean, I'm pretty sure we know that liquor license was about to be renewed. To me, it just should have been, that would have gave the other person a chance to come up here and defend himself. That's all I'm saying.
First off, I explained that when we had the situation last year
Right.
with, and, you know, yes, you're right. When someone gives doubt, you start to question.
Right.
It wasn't until last week that we got the list of licensure renewals, right? So after the meeting is when I emailed Chief the first time. And it was at that point I started asking for the right information. This information wasn't really given to us ahead of time, okay? And understand, of these 156, Chief, how many citations were issued?
Well, whenever you heard criminal trespassing, the theft, all of those citations should have been issued for those.
Warning, assisted rendered, warning. I don't see one citation. So that's what I'm getting at. We're so quick to jump on code enforcement, the tall grass. But yet, and I agree, we are and should entrust that what the chief recommends. But he's given that doubt last year, and just as he stated here, there should have been a citation, but I don't see citation 1. Yes, Chief?
Okay, if I may just clarify, as Captain Mallett had told you as well, the program that we've got was just supplying that. We have to go into each complaint to find out if a citation was issued. Even though it may say warning or assistance rendered, that is normally done by our dispatcher, not so much by the officer. So it may not be correct. There may have been a citation issue, but as Captain Mallett expressed to you the email, we'll have to go through each case.
And I thank you for that. That even gives more weight to what I'm getting at. So therefore, there was a citation. So it was at the level in which something needed to be done. You know, yes, and we are the legislative body, and we've been granted the responsibility of this vote. And we rely heavily on that recommendation. We need to make sure that recommendation is proper. A license is a privilege. It's not something that we owe anybody. So,
Mr. Ford?
Yes, Mayor, Chief, would it be helpful, I know that your response to Alderman Cavell was because of Rice Festival, a lot of these details you'd like to get more involved with to render some more information to the question that Mr. Cavell asked. If we table this until next month, would that give you sufficient time to look into what?
Yes, we would have sufficient time. I'd like to make a clarification though, if possible. Usually the charge of criminal trespassing normally comes from the person reporting. So it is my assumption that the business called saying that someone was trespassing. So just so the council is aware, you know. Now disturbances, yes, we've been called out for a lot of disturbances there. But as I said,
I had a talk with him, ATC had a talk with him, and he is very quick to call now.
So Chief, would you need additional time, maybe to reconsider, this particular application?
Yes, and I will say that'll make it a lot easier than having to do the citations on all of them, but if it's just that particular one, yes, we can have it ready by November.
Mayor, I'd be happy to amend my, motion to table this particular application.
Amended, your second? She is second? Okay, discussion? Mr. Crater?
I think he's got 2 months, right? We have a meeting in November and a meeting in December. And I don't wanna put the chief on the spot tonight saying, are you willing to retract your recommendation, favorable recommendation at this time? But I think if you look into it more, regardless if we table it or if we vote against it, the guy still has 2 months to come back and reapply, and then the chief will still have time to retract his favorable recommendation. But I agree with Mr. Gravel that we can't have these establishments. We can't be going to disturbances every 54 hours. That's just totally ridiculous. And whether we have to do something, evidently the property owner doesn't want to do it. So, you know, if he doesn't want to do it, then I think it's our obligation to do it, or to have something done. I also think it's the chief's obligation to have something done, to be out there and write citations and hopefully, you know, discourage some of this activity that's going on over there. Because we all see it, we all know what it's all about. It's not a secret. So regardless of which way we go tonight, if we table it or if we say no, the guy will still have time and the chief will still have time to review and possibly retract his favorable recommendation. So that's my point.
If you vote, you can have this guy.
Excuse me, hold up, Mr. Martin, hold up. If you vote no, he will have to resubmit an application. If you table it, it can be brought up again at the next meeting, okay? Just giving that out there. Mr. Martin, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think the seriousness of this, whoever this guy is, Samir Abdullah, he needs to be in front of this council. Okay? This is serious enough where he needs to know. And this is gonna give credence to the chief, this will give him a lot of backup. When this person come in front of this council and get on that podium, and each one of us direct our, not say hostilities, but our concern to let him know that, every month, he's gonna be reevaluated. And Jeff, I'm with you 100%. Maybe we could come up with a number, if he reached a number of maybe 5 a month, he has to come back in front of this council. Okay, because we do have the power of rescindership.
Can't do that, Mr. Martin.
Can't do that.
Can't do that.
No, sir.
Can't do what?
Can't do that, you can't reevaluate him and bring him back up here.
Yeah,
Once he's issued.
Once you issue the license, as I mentioned before, the license is good for a year. The chief would have to issue a report and request a citation to remove the license.
That's what I just said, Tom.
No, you said that he would have a problem with 5 violations of it. The question is,
I did not say
you
that.
cannot condition his license on that sort of thing. It's either he gets a license or he doesn't, then you have to remove the license. That's a different procedure.
Okay, if I may clarify what I just said, I did not say that. I said we'll come up with a number, whatever the number may be, whether it's 5, 10, 15, or 20. If we feel that the chief had enough of it, the chief is going to be the one to ask for rescindership of his license, not us.
That is correct.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So, in other words, to let him know that we'll be watching him. He's in my district, so I have no
You
problem.
can't prejudge a case, Mr. Morton,
We're
saying
not
5, 15, 20. By placing that number in there, you jeopardize the city's ability for this council to take action because you already decided you can have X number here, this, or that. That's improper in a proceeding where you are removing a license of a licensee who's been granted that license previously.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
What are you talking about,
Wait,
man?
point of order, Mr. Martin.
Only thing, well,
Mr.
maybe if I
Martin,
may-
Mr. Martin, you are out of order. You need to show respect to Mr. Reagan. Thank you. Thank you. He is your legal advice.
Oh, yeah.
All right, now, Mr. Core, you have a motion on the floor to table it, and it was seconded by Ms. Stringfellow. Any further discussion? To table, that's correct. To table, he amended his motion to table. He moved an amended motion.
There wasn't a motion prior to this? You voted on what? You rescinded your vote?
He rescinded, just let it be known that he is, Mr. Core is rescinding his original motion, and he is offering a motion to table it, and it was seconded by Ms. Stringfellow. We have any further discussion?
Table number 9. Yes.
Yes, number 9 only, everybody else is done. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Mr. Core, continue, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item, a motion was offered by the chair and seconded by Alderman Martin, recommending a resolution of the mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Crowley, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, ordering and issuing a rule to show cause to set a public hearing for condemnation of property situated on lot 10 of block 4 of Walker Addition, bearing the municipal address of 316 Span Avenue, Crowley, Louisiana, owned by Kenneth W. Karuma and Edwina Wildridge Karuma. Motion carried, and I so move.
I second that.
Brad, offered by Mr. Core, seconded by Mr. Martin. Discussion, and keep in mind that this is only to set a date.
Right, Mayor, I just want to.
Yes, sir.
Clear that these two ladies are the descendants of the person that has the property. Him and his wife is deceased, from what I'm understanding,
No.
and they have no objections to the city taking down the building.
Well, we
I
still
just
have,
want to make that clear. Okay, thank you.
thank you. All right, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Mr. Core?
Okay, item 3, adoption of a resolution of the mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Crowley, Louisiana, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, introducing an ordinance to amend and reenact section 14-23C of Article 2 of chapter 14 of the Code of Ordinance of the city of Crowley, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, to designate East 3rd Street and North Avenue I, East 3rd Street and North Avenue J, East 4th Street and North Avenue I, and East 4th Street and North Avenue J as 4-way stop sign intersections, to repeal all ordinances or parts of ordinances contrary thereto or in conflict therewith, and to provide for all matters relative thereto, and I so move.
Okay, offered by Mr. Core, seconded by who, I'm sorry? Mr. Martin? All right, before we get into discussion, before we do get into any discussion, I want to remind everyone that there needs to be a traffic study done. And so we can move as a contingency upon this traffic study that needs to be done in order for us to bring this back up.
If you'll note in my letter, Mayor, we did set up speed trailers already at that point to do a traffic study. I mean, are we looking for numbers before moving with this, or?
Mr. Reagan, would you care to comment, because I'm just asking for advice on the requirement of the traffic study?
I just saw the letter a few moments ago. It does reference if the council needs more information, I think they're entitled to that, Chief. But, I mean, that's a very brief letter, and it doesn't really itemize things like, when you do a traffic study, it normally has a date, on certain days, et cetera. But as long as you're willing to back that up with facts later on, you've got them. I mean, I don't have them, that was what our discussion was last night about this, and I think that was the reason for the clarification of your recommendations.
Chief?
Okay. You're okay with that, Chief?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
And everybody have a copy of that letter?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And you have the original.
Yes. Ms. Stringfellow, discussion, Ms. Stringfellow?
Thank you, Mayor. This wasn't an action item last week, though, right? This didn't go through committee. Am I correct?
It
Or
was
did?
discussion.
It was discussed in committee under discussion, and now we're bringing it up to set a date for a public hearing.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Raymond?
I'll just have one comment. I think we have too many four-way stop signs in town now.
I'm in agreement.
Okay. All right. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Two nays.
This is just to set the public.
That is to set a date for public hearing, that is correct. And it is in your packet on the date, which would be at our November's meeting.
Yes. Under non-action items, Chief of Police Sheriff Broussard presented the monthly Police Department report. Fire Chief Louis Romero presented the monthly Fire Department report. Chairman Corr read a report provided by City Inspector Tony Duhan. Chad Monso addressed the committee with an idea he had to place roll-offs provided by the Acadia Parish Police Jury at the city barn for Crowley citizens to dispose of their large household waste instead of dumping it near the street. Christopher George addressed the committee about criminal activity in the community. Rich Hughes addressed the committee in support of four-way stop signs on all four corners of Levy Park. Tracy Young addressed the committee regarding the need for the barrier fence at the animal shelter to be put back and the outside kennels to be reinforced as they're not secure and aggressive dogs could get out. Bill Nevitt addressed the committee with a comment on the lack of enforcement of grass cutting violations. He believes there is a selective enforcement and would like his phone calls to code enforcement returned. There was no further action to come before the Public Safety Committee, and the committee recessed.
Thank you, Mr. Corr. Next, get there, should be public buildings. That's it, public buildings. Mr. Woodward is not here, Ms. Stringfellow?
Thank you, Mayor, and I just want to comment regarding the animal shelter that all of those items did get taken care of. I was told that yesterday. So the Public Buildings Committee convened Wednesday, October 6, 2021 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. A quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was offered by myself and seconded by Alderman Wilridge to table the action item recommending a resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Crowley authorizing the Mayor to sign and submit a cooperative endeavor agreement between the State of Louisiana and the City of Crowley for the planning and construction work associated with the proposed restoration and rehabilitation to the Rice Community Theater project. After discussion, Alderman Wilridge rescinded his second and the motion died. A motion was offered by Alderman Wilridge and seconded by Alderman Clint Prater, recommending a resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Crowley authorizing the Mayor to sign and submit a cooperative endeavor agreement between the State of Louisiana and the City of Crowley for the planning and construction work associated with the proposed restoration and rehabilitation to the Rice Community Theater project. Motion carried with Alderwoman Stringfellow voting nay, and I so move.
Offered. Offered by Ms. Stringfellow, seconded by Mr. Prater. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Under non-action items regarding Criminal Justice Center, the following was discussed. Chief Broussard getting bids for pressure washing for the Criminal Justice Center and how the cost might be shared between the police department's budget and the city's budget. The committee suggested a meeting between the city engineer and the architect working currently at the Rice Festival Building and the MLK Center and fire marshal to determine if the Criminal Justice Center is currently ADA compliant and if other handicap access to the building could be constructed at the north entrance to the building on West 5th Street. The mayor recommended to Chief Broussard that he file an incident report with Julie Romero at City Hall so that she is able to file a claim with the, did I miss a page? No, okay, I'm sorry. So that she is able to file a claim with the city's insurance company for the damage done by reckless Strava to the historical marker in front of the police department entrance to the Criminal Justice Center. Regarding the Enterprise Center, the following was discussed. The mayor acknowledged the repairs to the Enterprise Center roof are not done because the contractor is waiting on materials. The cost for the new roof will be $165,000. Regarding the old Cajun Bag building owned by the city, the following was discussed. The mayor noted the property has been and is currently for sale. There are no conditions or restrictions the donor of the property placed in the donation to the city that would prevent the city from selling it. Ms. Emily Stoner with CAB requested the city improve the condition of the property and referred to it as blighted. Alderman Core and Alderwoman Stringfellow agree with her. It was also mentioned that the property might have a better chance of selling if the building was demolished by the city. There was no further business to come before the Public Buildings Committee, and the committee recessed.
Thank you, Ms. Stringfellow. Next, Insurance Personnel, Ms. Stringfellow, if you would continue.
Thank you, Mayor. The Insurance and Personnel Committee convened Wednesday, October 6th in the council chambers, and a quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was offered by Alderman Martin and seconded by myself to amend the agenda to add as an action item a recommendation for a resolution by the Board of Aldermen of the City of Crowley requesting a Louisiana Attorney General's opinion on the validity of the mayor's action in rescinding the rollover vacation time of the employees of the Crowley Police Department. Motion failed due to lack of a unanimous vote in favor of amending the agenda. Alderman Cabell voted nay. Under non-action items, I requested that the code enforcement officer or his representative be present at committee meetings at least once a quarter. I also requested returning regular business hours at City Hall on Fridays from 8 to 4:30 p.m. Instead of maintaining the current schedule. The mayor responded he would look into the request. Officer Blason Godfrey and Captain Melissa Withers of the Crowley Police Department addressed the committee on their grievance with the mayor's decision to rescind their rollover vacation time. The mayor, the next page. Oh, is it out of order? Okay, I'm sorry. The mayor informed the committee his decision was based upon the advice of the city attorney who reviewed the matter and determined the rollover of vacation time violated a city ordinance. The officers stated if rollover vacation time was not reinstated, they would be forced to pursue legal action against the city. Seeking an attorney general's opinion on the matter was discussed as an option for the officers. Alderwoman, myself, requested information regarding the possible change in civil service requirements now that the Crowley's population is below 12,000. There was no other business to come before the Insurance and Personnel Committee. And Mayor, I know I had sent you an email, so I just wanted to, see if, I know I'm supposed to just read, the
Yes, ma'am.
minutes, but.
That is correct. Just read your report. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other business to come before the Insurance and Personnel Committee, the committee recessed.
Thank you. Next is Community and Economic Development Committee. Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Mr. Cabell for taking over my committee last week. Community and Economic Development Committee convened Wednesday, October 6, 2021 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. A quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was offered by Alderman Cabell and seconded by Alderman Core to recommend the request of Amy Thibodeau, President and CEO of the Acadia Parish Chamber of Commerce, for the city to co-sponsor the Chamber's 17th annual Gumbo Cook-Off to be held Saturday, October 30th, 2021, and approve the use of the parking lot at the Enterprise Center for said event. Motion carried, and I so move.
Second.
For the tie, okay. Mr. Reggie, offered by Mr. Reggie, seconded by Mr. Prater. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
A motion was offered by Alderman Cabell and seconded by Alderman Prater to recommend the request of Jamie Morrison, Crowley's Main Street Director, for the city to co-sponsor Main Street's fundraiser, A Taste of Crowley, on the evening of Thursday, November
Offered by Ms. Reggie, and seconded by Mr. Martin. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Under non-action items, Alderman Cabell presented and read reports from Valerie Myers, Tourism Director, Janie Morrison, Crowley Main Street Director, Amy Thibodeau, President and CEO of Acadia Parish Chamber of Commerce, and the Crowley Garden Club. There was no further business to come before Community and Economic Development Committee, and the committee recessed.
Thank you, Mr. Reggie. Next, Revenue and Finance, Mr. Cabell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Revenue and Finance Committee convened on Wednesday, October 6, 2021 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. A quorum was present. There were no action items, nor were there any non-action items. There was no other business coming before the Revenue and Finance Committee, and the committee then recessed.
All right, thank you, sir. Next, Engineers Report, Mr. Mayor.
I've covered everything for me.
Okay, thank you. Next is resolution. A resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Crowley, Katy Parish, Louisiana, authorizing the adoption of the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire for audit engagements of governmental entities for the fiscal year 2021. Ask for a motion. Offered by Mr. Martin,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Cabell. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right. The business to come before the council. Recommendation, excuse me, I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved, Mayor.
Offered by Mr. Cabell, seconded by Ms. Stringfellow. Thank you very much.
Everybody have a safe and happy Rice Festival.
Oh, yes.
Stringfellow. Mr. Martin,
I'm sorry.
you've been.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ms. Sean Hill, anybody else?
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Cabell. Mr. Cabell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean Hill.
Oh, man, what's
I thought we voted to remove.
Because there was such a long discussion. Well, we did that too.